Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of That's So Matthew. Today, I am so excited to have an amazing guest talking about an amazing movie. So, introduce yourself and what we'll be talking about today.
Hello, my name is Allison McLean Merrill. I am an entertainment journalist, features writer, and editor, and my blog is called Past Foot Forward, where I write about all kinds of nostalgic things. But today, I'm super excited to be talking with Matthew about the Princess Diaries.
Yes, and I'm so excited to have you back. We first did Stuck in the Suburbs like quite some time ago.
Yeah, it was back in May,
Yeah,
so it's been a
so
while.
it's been a while, but I think that this was the perfect movie because this is part of like my royalty month, which is super exciting. We've got Enchanted, Ella Enchanted, and both Princess Diaries to break down with some amazing guests. And so this movie, I was just talking to Allison about this. I had never seen it before, but
Crazy.
I think we are on the same level of love for this movie.
Yes, definitely.
It was so cute. Like I was kind of like not knowing what to expect. Like I kind of knew like Anne Hathaway, Julie Andrews, like kind of what was happening. Like I knew that one TikTok sound, like the Gupta, the Queen's coming thing. But other than that, I was pretty like blind going in, and I just was like, okay, let's have some fun with it. And I think that this movie is so early 2000s, but it still works.
It totally works. Yeah, I think that it's that like timeless, but you can still appreciate the aesthetic of the 2000s simultaneously, which is cool.
Yeah, it also is a Disney movie, and I'm not gonna lie, like I did not like realize it really. Like obviously it had like the credits, but it didn't feel super like Disney. It almost felt more Disney Channel.
Kind of like a mega Disney Channel vibe. Is that what you were
Yeah,
feeling
I
there?
was gonna say it's definitely not like a normal early 2000s Disney vibe, but I liked it because it was different.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, for people who have no idea what the Princess Diaries are, if you've been living under a rock for the past like 21 years, like I was, 17 out of the 21 years, it is about this girl who is played by Anne Hathaway. Her name is Mia, and she finds out that she is a heir to the throne to be the Princess of Genovia.
Yep. And Genovia is sadly not a real country.
Yeah, sadly.
Pretty close. I think there's, you got Geneva, but not quite.
No, I love the name Genovia. I don't know why. Like it's just very like whimsical.
Yeah, kind of has a regal sound to it, just because of the way Julie Andrews says it, honestly.
Yeah. And also Julie Andrews being in this movie as like the queen is like just like so good. Like the casting is top notch.
It's pretty perfect. I agree.
So yes, so Mia is basically the princess of Genovia, the heir to the throne. However, in her real life, she's very far from that. She's kind of like seen as like that early 2000s like nerd. Like everyone like kind of is like, oh, ew, Mia, which I hate that stereotype in movies, but it happens a lot in the early 2000s. So I feel like it's just kind of like something we're gonna run into a lot here on the podcast. But the one scene that really was super interesting to me is it's like the first scene where she throws up giving a speech, and it's like what is to come. Like obviously when she's princess she's gonna have to give speeches, and at the end, spoiler alert, she gives a speech just fine. But I was like, that was like the kind of when I realized what I was in for, because it screamed early 2000s so much.
Yeah, you do see a lot of that in the movies from this time period, but that's so smart. I've never thought of it that way, that that's kind of a foreshadowing of her having to be in a role where she'll actually give speeches and things like that. So, yeah, that's a great observation.
Yeah. So Mia, honestly, let's just start with her. So Mia is played by Anne Hathaway, which obviously everyone knows is like one of my all-time favorite actresses. And so, like we said, she is kind of this teenage girl who is going through a lot in her life. Like all of a sudden, then she's like, "Oh yeah, your grandma wants to like meet with you and get some tea." And she's like, "Tea." Like this was such a new exploration of life for her, that when it like when she like met her and she's like, oh yeah, you're like the princess of this country, Genovia. That's like it's so scary. And I think the one thing that really intrigues me about her is that like she's so fascinated by this like lifestyle that was like something so new to her, like the cab scene where she's like flicking the switch like up and down. I
Mhm.
thought that that was like hilarious, which is stupid because it's like stupid humor. But like I was like, that's so funny. And then just like the one scene where the guy's like kind of trying to give her a makeover and he's like, "Oh, do you wear contacts?" And she's like, "No." Or I do, but I don't use them. And then he like breaks her glasses and then was like, "No, well, now you have to."
The makeover scene is the best. I love that part. It's so funny.
And it's so crazy because like there is such a transformation, like from the beginning of seeing Mia with like this curly, frizzy hair, more, I don't want to say like nerdy, but more nerdy looking, like glasses. And then by the end, she's a princess in a gown that has to deliver a speech at this ball. And even from the poster of this movie, you can see that she's not going to look like that for the entire movie. Uh,
Right.
but she's such a good character for development. Like I said, like seeing that like parallel of the speeches, I think was really cool, as well as like her adjusting to this new lifestyle, like the beach party thing, which didn't end well, and she like had to like learn her lesson. So I was like, I like Mia.
I do too. And I'm really glad you brought up the transformation aspect. When I was doing research on this a while back, I saved a quote that the director Gary Marshall said, relating to just what you're talking about with the physical transformation, but also kind of like what's underneath. And he said, it doesn't matter how your hair is or how your lipstick is, you have to make choices in life. You have to choose to do things. You got to follow a certain dream or path. And it doesn't matter what other people think or how you look. He also said of Mia, her strength of character is what really matters. And I love that because it could be easy to be like, it's not great that so much hinges on her looking a different way. But then there also is sort of the internal like development aspect too.
I feel like she becomes a lot more confident in herself, like too,
Yeah.
with the makeover, which obviously does not like have to correlate with like the makeover, but she just
Right.
like has like at the end this like this sense of herself, which at the beginning she doesn't really have. She's kind of just like hiding in the corner, and she has to do this debate on whether school uniform should be allowed or continue. And you just see that this like thing just like blossoms for her, and it was also not super cheesy, which I feel like in this like the transformation early 2000s it can kind of get a little cheesy. This one definitely, obviously it's a Disney movie from the early 2000s, so there is like some cheesy moments, but I felt like overall Mia's storyline and her arc was like one of the stronger parts of this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. She plays Anne Hathaway plays the whole thing so well with all of those transitions, and then still, even as more of the princessly duties and complications come about, that she still has like that heart and is still herself, even as she's growing and like changing through that too.
For sure. um Next we have the grandma from this Genovia, who is played by Julie Andrews, who is also the queen of Genovia, which I feel like is very important. So she honestly, at the beginning, as much as I love Julie Andrews, was kind of like a little shady because obviously I like had no idea what this movie was about. I just knew Julie Andrews and Hathaway. And so at first I thought she was like maybe gonna be like this like stepmother villain type thing.
Oh
I
no.
was so off. I was so off. So she is basically the mother of her of Mia's father. And so she is like bearing this news to Mia, well, that you're like the heir to the throne and the princess. And it kind of like takes over her life. And she kind of almost acts like a mother figure to her, which is something I was not expecting to happen. But I
Yeah.
loved the connection that they had. And by the end, I was like, she's probably my favorite character.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
it's kind of a
cool.
hot take, I think.
It also, in terms of the casting and taking on this role, just imagine like you're Mary Poppins and you're Maria Von Trapp from The Sound of Music, and then you go on years and years later and have this other iconic role. To me, that's also really cool, just in terms of her career trajectory. She's amazing. I love her.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say something. I don't know exactly where I read it, but it was like saying how this movie really like kickstarted Anne Hathaway's career, but like revived Julie Andrews' career. And I was like, I like the way that sounds, because I feel like sometimes in like this like kind of situation, it kind of is like, oh yeah, she came back out of hiding. But I feel like this movie, like you said, like relaunched her career. She had so many iconic films and roles that this was a completely different type of role for her, I think, in this different kind of movie. And it was done so well. So I obviously am obsessed with her.
Yeah, me too, definitely.
So I think that this next character is definitely a little bit of a funny guy, which is Joe, who is the security guy and limousine driver. So the first thing that I think of when it comes to Joe is that one scene where he's with the queen and he's like, "You've been wearing a lot of black lately." And I was like, "Where is this going?" And it was like super funny because he was kind of like a sidekick to both of them, like Mia and Clarice, because it just felt natural. And like the scene in the limo where he's like, no matter how many times you flip the switch, it's still going to go up and down. And I just think that he had such a great sense of humor that he didn't need to be like a super serious guy, but he still portrayed his character and was like welcoming to Mia and like kind of like there as like a figure to her to like kind of help guide her through this new life.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best characters. And of course, you've seen all the way through to the second one and kind of know how he and the queen, the relationship develops, which is also really nice to see
Yes.
that pay off later on.
Yeah, I think that it was just super funny. Like that one scene, I was like, because I didn't really know what this film was rated. I think it's rated like PG.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's like obviously still like pretty Disney. But I was like, that is super funny. And next we also have Lily, who is like the best friend of Mia. And the one scene, to be honest, Lily didn't really stand out to me like as much as like other characters. But the one scene where this little girl is like, "Hi, my name's Lily." And then she wanted Mia to sign her autograph because she was the princess. She's like, "Oh, that's my best friend's name." And I thought that was like super cute. Like it's obviously cheesy, but it was cute.
That was really sweet. I remember growing up, I always thought that Lily was just really funny. And I don't know, I think that compared to Mia, maybe being a little bit more of a not like softer personality necessarily, but they're just so different in terms of how they carry themselves. And Lily is like often having to stand up for Mia, and I think that comes through a lot in her character. So yeah, definitely an interesting one to think about that maybe I haven't given as much thought to before. But once we get into some of the story, yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
As well as the brother of Lily, who is Michael. So he has some feelings for Mia,
Mhm.
that is not very like well hidden, and it is slightly like kind of explored, which I thought was super funny because, like I don't know if it's a Victorious song, but there's like something like a song about your best friend's brother or something like that
Yes,
is like the one.
best
And
friend brother is the one for me.
that's all I could think
Yes.
about. That's literally all I could think about.
That is hilarious. I love that reference.
It's it was just super funny. Like obviously I did not like think that he was like obviously like one of my favorite characters. But I thought that he was like a super cute and like a sweet guy. And he just kind of was always there, like I think for everyone, like support throughout the movie. Um
He and Lily are both a nice dose of realism in their own different ways. They're as crazy as Lily is, she's very like direct, and he's just kind of more grounded, you know. So I like the way they contrast.
Yeah, I was gonna say the contrast of characters in this movie is done very well because it is like such a super like fantasy movie to kind of have like you said that sense of like realism, I think is super like important, and it was portrayed very well
Yeah,
actually.
definitely.
So up next is the we have Lana, who is like the bully of this movie, who is like classic mean cheerleader. And honestly, I think my favorite part about this movie is Lana was always like thinking that she's better than everyone else. But then it turns out that Mia's a princess. So basically like fully swapped. And I always like, I hate to say like movies where like the bully like loses in the end, but when the bully loses in the end, sometimes it's just too good, you know?
Yeah, I agree completely. And also the fact that she has an opportunity to kind of get her time in the spotlight and acts like she's Mia's best friend later on. That's sort of another trope of the person who's not cool or popular, like becomes cool and popular, and then everyone wants to be their best friend. That's one thing I like automatically think of with her too.
Yeah, I think that it was like that whole sense of like the when like something happens when someone becomes like more popular than you and you feel like you need to like match that level, which I think being a high school student, I see this every single day, every single day. But it's like that kind of thing where you like always need to like be better than someone else. I feel like that it was like very portrayed well, considering it still applies socially. And this was like 22 years ago, 21 years ago.
Mhm.
I think that that was like a super like high school thing. And I love when I'm watching movies that can be like, that still happens in high school today. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of my takeaway from that whole scene, as well as we have the magician friend, the sleight of hand dude. He
Jeremiah,
was such a guy. I loved the one scene where they're on like the news. I forget what it's like called.
shut up and listen.
Yes, shut up and listen. And he has like also his hair is super cool. I was kind of vibing with it. And then he was like about to do some magic tricks. And I just thought that was like super funny. And like it was a good sense of like comedic relief, I think,
Yeah.
throughout the movie.
Yeah,
Like he
he's
wasn't
great.
meant to be taken seriously.
Right. But he's such a nice guy. And the sweaters is such a great character. We need like a Jeremiah movie now.
Yeah. Now, see I would be okay with. I think that that would be a great addition because I feel like it would like his hair alone was just so funny to me. I don't know why. Like it's like this bright blazing red. It's just not something you saw like in the other students. It kind of like set him apart in his own little world.
Very true.
So the last one really is Josh Bryant. So Josh Bryant, he is that classic like teenage hot boy. Everyone's like obsessed with him. Like this, the trope. It happens all the time. And the scene that comes to mind when I first think of him is the scene at the beach house when he starts getting like interviewed. And I am just like, that scene was kind of like one of those scenes where I'm like, I don't know if I can keep watching without cringing.
Yeah, and where they're at the locker and he's like asking her to that, and he's just like checking her out. But even though his character is icky, I love Eric Von Detten. Oh my goodness. Like you said, just like the typical hot boy. And he was so popular during this time. I've been watching a lot of So Weird lately, which he's on that show also. And of course, we have Brink. So big deal, Eric Von Detten. And this is definitely one of his, most known roles. I think he does a great job playing the slimy guy. And I think he's like probably super nice in real life, which also is kind of funny.
He was definitely like, honestly, the high school TBH of the day is if that kid went to my school, I would hate him, but also love him at the same time.
Yeah, that
He's
makes
like
sense.
a lovable, hateable character. Like there's sometimes when you're like, you're just really annoying. But then like there's other days where it's like, you're cool. And I also like that he was like, surprisingly, I was not expecting him to like be the love interest, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I
interesting.
was this is I forgot to mention this. I was kind of almost wondering if Jeremiah would be the love interest, but obviously he was not. But I think that's like the best part about going into like something for a podcast like blind is I had no idea what was going to happen. I was just along for the ride. And it just adds for even better commentary.
Yeah, that's so fun just to not know like what to expect.
Yeah, I really had no idea, but obviously, like I said, I really liked it. So the one thing about this movie that really surprised me was how like interesting the cast was. Like we obviously do not need to go into full detail about Geraldine Gupta, who is the vice principal. But Sandra Oh, I was not expecting Sandra Oh to show up, and she did.
Yeah. And like you said, she has gone viral for good reason because that scene is just great. That line.
It's just so like funny. Like I am not like a huge Grey's Anatomy person, but like my sister is. So like I have seen way too much Grey's Anatomy. But
My
when
sister.
she showed up, I was like, oh, I just like this whole cast, there's just so many recognizable faces, like even like to this day, that I think just makes this movie like even more special.
Yeah, it is so special. I'm telling you, I still remember when this movie was new and getting it on VHS and like watching it with my sister at Christmas time at my grandparents' house on one of those little TVs, like with the VHS player
Oh
in it,
yes.
and just such happy memories. This is one of my like lifelong movies. So that definitely crops up every time that I watch it still. And I've been to some of these sites, which maybe we can, as we move through all of the different
Oh
scenes, we can talk
yes. We can definitely do that. Because
about.
that I think that was like the reason that you picked this movie too. I think I remember that being part of
Yeah.
the decision process.
Because I love the second one also, but this one has all of the great San Francisco sites, and getting to go there was just amazing. I want to go back.
No,
Such a cool.
I want to go to San Francisco. I have not been to San Francisco since like 2014. So I think that I should go to San Francisco. And when
I
I was watching this movie, I was like, I need to go back to San Francisco.
well, now that I know that you've been, it is a very different vibe to watch it, having been and seen some of
Yeah.
the neighborhoods and stuff than beforehand. I was like, oh wow, I did that. I was there. And so yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool.
My favorite scene that comes to mind from this is when they're on the hill and the car starts going backwards because all of the streets in San Francisco are just so steep, so obnoxiously steep and like curvy and like literally everything is going on. And so that scene I just thought was super funny. And then obviously she ends up getting pulled over and then they're like, this girl's license like expired like 45 years ago. And the queen's like, I don't need a license. It's like little comedy things like that I think made this movie stand out.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Order of the Rose.
I just everything about the queen is just iconic. Like I just you just can't love her. I just wait, cannot not love her. Sorry. That did not come out right. So honestly, let's just start with our plot breakdown.
Great.
So yeah, obviously Mia is a high school student, and when we first get a glimpse of her, I did not even know it was Anne Hathaway either. I was like, what? Like I said, this movie was such a ride. And so she lives with her mother, Helen. And so one of the first big things that we find out is she has a huge fear of public speaking. And that's with that scene where she has to give a speech about uniforms and she throws up. And I also love the comment that one of the students made was like, cover the tuba.
Cover the tuba.
So it was so random that I was like, this is funny.
That's such you notice like the best little things. I love that.
No, I literally, and the best part is I was multitasking while watching this movie. I was also doing homework because that's
Good.
important.
That
But I
could
was
be
like, that stuck out to me. Cover the tuba, like that was good. So we also have Josh Bryant, who is we also have I don't know if we actually mentioned that Lana and Josh are like together at the beginning of this movie
yeah.
and have feelings for one another, which is like, the classic high school trope.
Mhm.
And so we have Lily and Michael, who are like her best friends. Michael also has a crush on her, the best friend's brother thing.
Yes. Yes.
um, so a little bit goes on throughout the movie, and then the mom, Helen, is like, your grandma sent you a letter, I believe. I think it was a letter.
Yeah.
I was
She
gonna say
notified.
email was not a thing. I was gonna say, or it was a thing, but like I don't think it was an email.
I don't think it was an email. Email was very, very new. We were still getting used to that back then for sure.
She was notified, like you said,
Notified.
of this grandma wanting contact, and obviously Mia is like, "What? Like I thought our grandma was dead, or
Yeah.
my grandma was dead."
I think she just called him. But yeah, it's and then she finds out that it's the grandma who has ignored them, and so she is already not excited about this meeting.
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting. Like the fact that like she was ignored to like, especially later on in the movie, we're gonna find out that she's like the princess of Genovia. for like her to be ignored, I thought was like definitely an interesting plot point, but
Yeah.
I didn't doubt the process.
Right, right. And I should say, I have not read the Princess Diaries books. I've read Meg Cabot, the author's writing before, but there are a lot of books. And I know that there are definitely some differences between the movies, of course, only two movies, and then all of these mini volumes of books. So I read somewhere that the story with the dad is a little different in the book, and that I think he originally like wasn't dead in the books. I might be getting that wrong. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, so that's a switch.
Yeah, I always find it so interesting when we get like a book to movie adaptation, like kind of little differences like that. Cause like even if the dad was alive in the books, like is there a reason that like in the film version he's dead? Does it like spice it up a little bit? Like, oh, single parent. But like I always find that so interesting. So I also have not read the books, obviously went into this pretty blind, but I would honestly be interested in kind of like giving them a read because I think that they are maybe kind of like see the differences.
Yeah, I have a feeling they might be kind of spicy too, the books. So
Oh,
if you
okay.
like the spiciness, then you might like the series.
Yes, because this movie was just so spicy. Yeah. Yeah, now we find out that Mia is the princess and she will one day have to rule over Genovia. And so the grandma is like, well, you need to learn how to be a princess. So she goes to princess lessons, which honestly I thought was super funny. Like it's like the whole idea you have to learn how to be a princess. And the whole deal is that she needs to make her final decision by the day of this independent Genovia Independence Ball, which is coming up. And I think at the beginning of the movie is about 2 to 3 weeks. So it's like she's got quite some time to like fully grasp this undertaking because I mean, if someone walked up to me on like on the streets or even like you and been like, yeah, so you're gonna rule over a kingdom one day, I'd be like, slow down.
Right. You have to have time to process that kind of a thing.
So I was glad that she had like time to process and learn how to be a princess before she like had to make this final decision. So overall, we know that at some point in the movie, we're gonna go to this ball where that's like gonna be like the climax of the movie. Um, so she starts beginning to get a makeover, and she starts kind of getting closer to Joe, and she like I said, she kind of he becomes the father figure to her because she never had a father, or she did, but he's dead.
Right.
So it's like kind of having that like father figure like come back into her life. And I thought that it was like a super cute friendship. And it was kind of unexpected, but I was like, you know what? I like where this relationship is going.
Yeah, those princess lessons are just great comedic relief in what's already a funny movie, but still, thank you for being here today. Just iconic.
Yeah, it's so interesting because now we start noticing that people at school like start treating her differently. Like before, everyone was like, "Oh, ew, Mia," but now everyone's like, "Mia," like excited about her, and I think that that's like such an interesting like thing. And so she kind of like starts drifting away from Lily. So Lily kind of like, we get the classic, like the best friends are separating. There's some tension. But they have to like make it up. You can't just like leave them hanging. So they kind of have like this little conversation and she swears secrecy. However, secrecy not gonna happen. It's got to get spicy somehow. There has to be something that just brings the spice. And so the entire school suddenly finds out that she is going to be a princess, and the paparazzi just are obsessed with her, which one is a little creepy because I'm pretty sure she mentioned she's in like 10th grade,
Yeah, she is.
which is crazy because as I like get older, like watching movies, like for like teenagers to be younger than me is a little weird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm in 11th grade, not that much of a difference, but I was like, she's in 10th grade because she does not look like she's in 10th grade. Obviously, Anne Hathaway is probably like pretty past that at this point, but like,
Well, I thought she was maybe 16 when she auditioned, so she wouldn't have
So
been
roughly.
too far off.
Yeah, but
But
I was like, she's in 10th grade.
they
I
all look
was
they all look very mature.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
actors.
I feel like that's just a whole like Disney like early 2000s thing in general.
Yeah.
Like everyone always looks a little bit older, which that's their casting choice, not mine. So I respect it. So we have the first state dinner, which is a ride. Uh Mia is still getting used to this whole new like thing, and she has a little bit of trouble like adjusting, I think. And so we kind of see like other people like kind of start following like behind her and kind of like giving her a chance because she's not really proving herself very well.
Right. Yeah, that whatever it is, the palate cleanser where she just eats like a giant piece, like a scoop of ice cream. That's the thing that sticks in my mind from the dinner. So
Yeah, I was gonna say the one scene where she like eats a giant thing and then everyone else does it and they're like whoa 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 whoa, whoa, and then
yeah,
it's like
exactly. Yeah,
stupid funny, but like still funny.
I love it.
So we kind of have like begun to learn that Clarice, like even though like her parents loved one another, they divorced to kind of like go their own way, which is like, the whole like High School Musical, gotta go my own way thing. Obviously tying High School Musical into like everything. So uh Josh invites Mia to a beach party, which means that she will not hang out with Michael and Lily, which obviously tension. This whole
Mhm.
beach party scene, I was cringing. I'm not gonna lie, I was cringing.
I don't know. I mean, I love the music.
Yeah,
The
music is good. Music is good.
music is good, but yeah, how everything goes down with everyone tricking her, and that's not okay. That's not good.
Yeah. So the paparazzi finds out about this party. And so obviously the paparazzi being obsessed with her is still a weird like thing, but I like understand she's a princess. So they're gonna do what the paparazzi does and just invade privacy. And so they like ambush her at this party. However, Josh needs to get his time in the spotlight because being popular and hot wasn't enough for him. So he kisses Mia, which I was not expecting. I was I was shocked.
Well, maybe we should back up to the foot rub because wow, just wow.
That's literally what I have to say. Wow. Like this whole beach scene is so it's like probably the spiciest part of this movie.
Mm-hmm. I know, and there's some missing clothes. It just keeps getting worse.
I was like I really was not expecting that. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it also like gives this weird thing of like it's not like this at any other part of the movie. It was just like thrown in at this like one random part at the beach. And also the fact that the paparazzi was like there and like probably has photos of most of it, like still makes it like weirder.
Yeah.
Yes. But we kind of and we can't forget the fact that she's photographed only in a towel.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Not a good look, yeah.
And so it gets like all around. It's in the newspapers, and so Clarice finds it, and she is like, she is humiliated, and so she's like, I will renounce the title, which the word renounce is such an interesting word, and I always like whenever I hear it, I'm just like interesting. But it's such like a thing I did not see coming that this beach party would like essentially basically like set up the movie for like what is still to come.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. It is a bit of a pivot because the stakes just got higher now that she's had a little scandal.
Yeah, so the queen reacts like a lot, like she's very upset with her. But then some people are like, I think you were a little too mean, which I mean, I agree, but like also like if a princess was photographed in just a towel and other like stuff, I would also be like, oh. But like this is Genovia. I don't know what life is in like Genovia. So
Yeah, not yet anyway.
not
It's still
yet.
a few years down the road.
Yeah. So we Mia finally stands up to Lana. We kind of see this whole thing. Uh Clarice apologizes to Mia, which I thought was super interesting because I wasn't expecting her to. I was kind of like thinking that she would be like, I'm the queen, she's the princess, I can do whatever I want. But she takes this very seriously to like make it up to her. And so she will publicly renounce the throne at this ball, which is coming up very soon. So, what is the only option to do? Run away.
Yep.
And so Mia starts running away. However, she finds a letter from her father, and it kind of just gets a little emotional. You know, it's kind of like probably one of the more emotional scenes of this movie. But she's driving to the ball and she gets caught in a downpour. And she's like saying something, this is what I get for driving without a license or something like that. And it was like kind of a callback to that one scene where they were driving up the hill, but their car is going down and then they got pulled over. And then the queen was like, oh, I don't need a license.
Oh yeah. You're so good with the foreshadowing and the callback.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I picked up on that, but I was like, this is cute. I was like, I always like those little things like that. So at this ball, we start seeing clips. Everyone's like, where is she? Like, where is the princess? Like, is she coming? Or what is going on? And so at this point, I was almost wondering if she was even going to come. Because I was like, I know that there's a second one because I watched this one before I watched the second one.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, I don't know what's going to go on. She comes into the ball in the rain, wearing like regular human clothes, not a princess gown. And everyone's like, we should all be dressed like her. Like,
And the reporter is like saying every single thing.
in like the little recording device. I thought that was so funny. She's wearing clothes soaked in the rain. And I was like, oh, this is too good. So Clarice, the queen, accepts Mia's apology. She also accepts her role as the Princess of Genovia, which is like the whole like point of the movie. So yay, we got to that point. But it kind of just gets very interesting because Michael accepts her apology as well, and they go and confess their feelings for one another in the courtyard.
They do. And she has her foot pop and kiss.
I was shocked. Like I was shocked, honey. I'm honestly thought that it was like they were never gonna like have that moment. And when they did, I was like kind of here for it. Like it was much better than Josh. I think that was his name.
Yeah.
No. Michael, it was cute. I really liked it. And so in the final scene, we have this like plane and we didn't even mention Fat Louie up until this point. So Fat Louie is with her in the plane and it's like this little diary entry and she is going to go to Genovia with her mother. And it's like the end, happily ever after. I was so immediate thoughts after watching this movie. I was like, I was not expecting that.
Why?
In a good way. Like I was not expecting it to like have such a happy ending. I mean, obviously it's a princess movie, so like, you know, they have to have their happily ever after. But I thought that it was like gonna like obviously be less satisfying, but like everything I wanted to happen. Michael, they had their kiss. She accepted the role as princess, and then she's going to Genovia, which obviously sets up for future occurrences. But I was like, who? I was really shocked by this movie in a good way. And I think that it kind of just explains why so many people like you like love this movie so much.
I don't remember what I thought of the ending the very first time I watched it, but I will say, just seeing her in the beautiful ball gown and the tiara and everyone dancing and the Miracles Happen song, it's just the like if you could think of the ultimate teen princess movie ending, like that's it. I don't know how you do any better than that on this kind of a story. It's just perfect for me.
With the music too. The music is always the best part. Like once they have this happy ending, like this is also with Enchanted as well, with Carrie Underwood, Ever Ever After. It's just like it goes from like this like satisfying ending to this like pop like 2000s vibe, and it's just so good every single time.
Miracles happen once in a while
Oh,
if you
so
believe.
good. I will be adding that song to my playlist.
Myra is the best. I've talked with her a little bit, and she was doing that, or she's doing lots of other cool pop stuff for Disney and Disney Channel during this time. And I just remember seeing that music video, and there's just no better feeling than watching that music video, honestly.
No, it is just so good. And I feel like that everything about this movie really surprised me, which leads me into our rating, which is always like the most hot seat moment of the podcast. So I thought about this one because I was originally like thinking maybe like an 8.5, but I'm gonna have to give it a 9 out of 10.
It's a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm
I
biased.
respect it. I think that I this movie just like is something special.
Yes.
Like I can see it like in you and so many other people that love this movie, that this is such like a generation defining movie,
Yeah.
that it's just so good. I love also just like how it's a Disney like princess movie, but it's different. Like it's not like the usual thing. It also has a sequel, which is something that it kind of sets up towards. And you'll hear me talk about that with an amazing guest literally the week after this episode is published. So I think that this movie is definitely uh one that I will be watching over and over again in years to come, which is something I'm not sure I expected out of it when I first watched it, but I think it was great.
Great. I'm so glad that you like it. That makes me happy.
Yeah. But I think we didn't talk about this on the official recording yet, but there is always this thrown around idea of a third movie in the franchise. And I've heard about this for years. I literally don't ever think it's going to happen, or if it is, it's not going to happen for a while. But I was wondering what your thoughts on that would be.
Yeah, I remember doing some research on this a couple years ago, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I do think that the cast has expressed interest in doing it. So I don't think that it's out of the question. I'm just not sure what shape it would take. Would it be a Princess Mia or Queen or whatever mom kind of thing, or would it focus on a kid, things like that? But I would be okay with it staying just like it is. I'm still trying to process how I feel about the Santa Claus series right now.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was gonna say. Like, that's kind of like the vibe because don't get me wrong, I love all the Santa Claus movies, but I'm not sure that we needed that limited series per se.
yeah, I've not quite decided how I feel about that. I think announcing it in January was odd. If you had said it in December, maybe it would have been a little more
Yeah, I
exciting.
almost wonder if they said it in January so that maybe like if it comes out in like December, everyone will have already processed it and be like on one side of the fence or the other. I'm willing to give it a shot for sure, but I just feel like the movies were enough for me. This
I
has
agree.
nothing to do with what we talked about, but you know what? I love all of those movies, so I definitely just needed to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, it is totally connected though, because we're in this age where it happens left and right. Some beloved property is being made into something else, and sometimes people are really excited about that, but there's always skepticism or things that people will complain about, sometimes for good reason. So it's just the way it is, world we're living in.
Yeah, like that Home Alone additional movie that came out last year. I have not watched it. I'm almost afraid to.
I did. Um, you know, There were plenty of things that I did not love about it, but I think that it could have been worse.
Okay,
And
fair enough.
I appreciate the effort, but
Yeah.
there were some misses. I will be completely honest. That's just how I feel.
Well, I didn't even know that there was one after Home Alone 4 until I was on Disney Plus the other day and it was like, here are your Home Alone movies. And I was like, so I still have two to watch. So maybe I'll just knock them both out at like the same time so that like the band-aid, like when I rip it off, won't hurt as much.
You've seen more of them than I have. I have seen the first three, and that is all. Well, and the
I
new one.
I watched the fourth one, which is okay. I just didn't know that there was like the Home Alone holiday heist movie, and I'm very intrigued by it. So might just have to do it. Christmas is over, but I think I still might just have to dive in.
You might have to do it. The fourth one, the reason I stopped myself from clicking on it is because they took the original characters, and of course, it's not the same cast. So I just don't really want to do that to myself.
Yeah, no, I literally agree. And the thing that just makes it, you're right. It's it's not good. It's not good. So you're not like missing anything, but I have seen it. I have like the box set of like the first four. Maybe that's why I never knew that there was like a fifth and now sixth one, but interesting. So yeah, you're not missing out on much with that one.
Real quick, I did want to go back to San Francisco. And
Yes.
when you were there, I mean, do you, having watched the movie, do you recognize from your trip any of the landmarks that were shown, or did anything look familiar to you?
Obviously that was 8 years ago. So I wish I could say that I remember more, but like obviously just the design of the streets is just
Mhm.
like a flashback because driving on them is very scary. Like I was driving with some cab driver. That
Mm,
was scary. Like I just remember that. And like obviously the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't really think that that's
right.
shown in here too much or if at all.
Yeah, it doesn't figure prominently, but yeah, were you just on like a family
Yeah, it was
vacation?
just like a family vacation. And so I don't remember much, but I do just want to go back because I did have so much fun. And also like the San Francisco vibes of this, I thought were like pretty, pretty iconic.
Well, the cool thing is I was there on the 20th anniversary of the movie, and that just kind of like worked out that way with the schedule to be in the city on that day. And if you go and do some of these sites, the school is actually a private home, which I, researched beforehand, but it looks just the same, except it doesn't say the Grove School on there because like somebody actually lives there. So I tried to be discreet, walking around in front of somebody's house, but I did get my pictures and my videos and all that. Uh,
Okay, iconic. Like,
it was amazing. It was the best feeling. And all of those, like those stairs, I remember walking up those. I don't know if it was the exact ones, but something similar. We walked so far to get to that house that they used for the outside of the school. The arm wrestling and the arcade. So all of that stuff had moved somewhere else, but we did touch the original little arm wrestle man and some of the arcade games that they played, and then just other things. We couldn't take a cable car ride, unfortunately, which they crash into in the movie,
yeah.
but we there was one just like stopped that people were allowed to get up and pose and take a picture on. So I could go on and on about all of the Full House stuff and Raven's
I did
house.
see the Full House house.
Oh, you did?
I
Okay,
did.
good. Especially right now, I'm like,
I
oh
know.
gosh, oh, I'm so glad I got to see it. But it's just amazing how in this one city there's so many Disney Channel, and Mrs. Doubtfire. That house is
Oh,
there
such a good
too.
movie.
Like everything is there. We just need to move there.
I no, you know what? I that's why Matthew goes to San Francisco and stays there forever. Sounds like a plan.
Yep, no more snow.
Uh, snow. No, I'm done with the snow. But obviously, thank you so much for joining me. I had an amazing time, if I haven't said it enough, with an amazing movie. So where can my listeners check out all your stuff and like follow you?
I would love that. And thank you so much for having me, Matthew. This has been
Of
amazing.
course.
So again, my name is Allison McLean Merrill. I am a writer and editor. I also have a blog. It is called Past Foot Forward. You can find me there on Instagram, and I am just myself on Twitter at A McLean Merrill. I'm doing a really cool thing right now where I'm watching every single Disney Channel original movie in 2022 and the predecessors to those, which are Disney Channel premiere films, as many of those as I can find anyway. Some of them are kind of rare. And I'm just blogging my way through that journey, making some content based around that right now. So yeah, if you want to talk DComs or anything Disney or nostalgia or 90s, let me know.
Yes, I was actually just going to mention your 2022 DCOM rewatch and how much I admire that, because I don't know if I would ever be able to do that, especially where there's like multiple in one day.
Yeah, the multiple in one day after a work day was hard. That has already happened once. And I will be honest, there have been a couple where I had to fall asleep and finish it the next morning. No
Totally
shame.
okay.
Totally okay. I still got it watched. But I'm really glad that some of the days where I'll have a 2 or 3 a day will be on a weekend day. So it's super fun. It's just a great way to kind of walk back through really nostalgic childhood ones for me, but then also give some time to others that I either don't know quite as well, or like maybe newer ones that I haven't really taken the time on yet. So yeah.
So I will link your Instagram, Twitter, and your blog down in the show notes for everyone to go subscribe to the blog, follow you, all the things. So obviously, thank you so much. You guys can check me out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places at That's So Matthew, and check out my website, that'smatthew.com, which is getting a remake soon. So that's exciting. Stay tuned, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in another episode again soon. Bye.
Bye.